I feel like Daphne really stole the show in Can't Buy Me Love. Absolutely brilliant performance from Jane Leeves. This episode, as is usually the case with Frasier, is really great. This is the 14th episode of the first season, directed by James Burrows. And this episode is one that I remember really well, and that's because of the character of Renata. I just feel like she's so memorable. But I'll talk about her in a moment. First of all, though, absolutely loved Frasier's joke to Bulldog Briscoe in the beginning. I won't tell you what the joke is, but his retort to something Bulldog Briscoe was teasing him for, I thought was brilliant. But the main narrative focuses on a charity auction where various men are auctioning off themselves in this bachelor auction to raise money for charity. And Frasier is bought by a model, and he's rather happy about this. Bulldog is bought by somebody else, and I won't say who. I will with a spoiler warning and discuss that in more detail, but I don't want to spoil exactly who it is because I found it to be very amusing. And unfortunately, Frasier's date, the model, has to go into work, a last minute call for work, and she also doesn't have a babysitter because her babysitter is also working with her. So Frasier ends up babysitting this 12-year-old girl, and she is moody, she's whiny, she spends the entire time, kind of at Frasier's prompting, to complain about her mother, and she tells all of these really horrible things about how her mother neglects her and doesn't treat her right. And it's definitely very interesting to see Frasier interacting with a child. In fact, I could be wrong, but this might be the first time there has been somebody under the age of 18 in Frasier. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me. But children don't really feature in Frasier that frequently. Obviously, with Freddie, we get a bit of Freddie now and again. But it's certainly interesting to see a child in the show, and it's just a little bit different. And I have to say, she's brilliant. She's annoying. She's a really irritating character, but in a way that's really compelling to watch. She's brilliantly played by Ashley Bank, and as I said, it's because of her that I really remember this episode. She makes it so memorable and rather entertaining, and ultimately what happens with her part of the narrative I thought was brilliantly executed, really entertaining, and actually I think unpredictable. I can't remember the first time I saw this, but certainly I feel like it was something I didn't see coming. And I won't say any more than that, but I will just say absolutely loved to hate Renata as a character because she was very irritating, but I really enjoyed how Frasier responded to her, the way Frasier handled things, and ultimately what happened with that. And I think everything else I want to say is a spoiler. Um, yes, because that would be a spoiler as well. So I have a couple of things I want to mention, and these are all spoilers. So spoilers from now, and sticking with the Renata theme. The fact that Frasier told Kristina that he didn't really feel like he wanted to have the date with her now because of what he'd learned is not really his place because she paid for that date. So it's up to her. Obviously, she can't, kidnap Frasier and demand the date. But Frasier didn't really have the right to say, actually, let's not bother having this date because she paid for him. And I don't know kind of what the legalities of that would be. I've never been to a bachelor auction, but yeah, that's not really his place to say. The other thing I loved about this, and I alluded to this earlier, is Daphne. We've never really seen this side of Daphne before, where she's had a lot to drink and she's quite aggressive with other drivers. She's not driving, I should point that out. She's in the back of a car with Bulldog. She didn't really want to buy Bulldog, but Martin kind of prompted her to start the bidding, and she was the only person. I won't say how much she bid. If you're still listening but haven't seen the episode, I'm sorry for ruining it, but have a guess and see how much you think she paid and see if you're right. But actually, I'm so glad she did because it was just so great to see this different side to Daphne. Usually we only, until this point, only ever see Daphne as Martin's health worker and nothing else. And obviously, well, I can't say too much in case you haven't seen going forward, but we do get to see more of Daphne. And this is really the first time where we really get to see Daphne outside of work. And it's great, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And Jane Leeves gave an absolutely fantastic performance. Not so much of Niles and Eddie in this. There was a bit with Eddie where I think he barked at Cheetos. Was it Cheetos? And Niles had a few moments here and there, but nothing too prominent. But as is usually the case, I really enjoyed it. Can't Buy Me Love is a really great episode of Frasier, and as I said, one that really is very memorable.